Hi, my name's Edward from the Percentage Company, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how to set up your Cloudbeds to QuickBooks accounting interface by the Percentage Company. Once you've registered your account on the percentageapp.co, you'll receive an email with your username and password, which you can log in at admin.thepercentageapp.co. Once you log into the accounting interface, you'll see that on the left-hand side you've got Cloudbeds, and slightly just below that you've got QuickBooks. So in order for the Percentage app to be able to connect and post your journal entries, you first need to connect the Percentage app to Cloudbeds and QuickBooks. So we can do this by starting with Cloudbeds, clicking on the green Setup button. With Cloudbeds and QuickBooks open in separate tabs in the same window, you can then just click Connect, and you'll be redirected to approve the connection between the Percentage app and your Cloudbeds account. Once you've done this successfully, you'll see Status Connected. The second step of the process is to connect QuickBooks. Once again, I have the QuickBooks page open in another tab, and I go to the green Setup button. Once again, you'll be redirected to QuickBooks to connect your app. Once the Percentage app has been successfully connected to the QuickBooks account, you'll automatically be redirected to the mapping page. To start your mapping, we start at the top at Document Prefix. Here is the prefix that you will see in your QuickBooks account, followed by the date where the revenues were generated. If you have lots of journal entries, this is useful to help you separate between your normal journal entries and the journal entries posted by the Percentage app from Cloudbeds. If you use house accounts in Cloudbeds, you can choose whether or not to map them and to transfer them to your QuickBooks account by sliding this to active if you use. The guest ledger account is the difference between the revenue you've earned and the revenue that's been paid. So, for example, some guests might pay at the end of their stay. So this is money that's been generated each day until the date of checkout when they pay. So in this case, we can map to an accounts receivable account called guest ledger. And then we need to select a guest account which is required by QuickBooks. So we've created a dummy customer under the hotel customer name. Next is the room revenue. Whichever account you select here will receive all the revenues from all the rooms generated. However, if you want to split the room revenues, you can do so using the split the room function also. This means that you can map each individual unit at your property to a different account in QuickBooks if, for example, you have a condominium set up or you have unit owners where you need to report the revenues periodically. You can also subdivide this using the revenue class. So this may be useful to separate it by department or other such things, but this depends on your accounting setup. We don't recommend using the base currency. This is only required if you have multiple currencies set up and use multiple currencies simultaneously. If your QuickBooks account is set up to do so, you can also track by location. So if you have multiple properties, you can also split by multiple locations for each property. Once you've mapped the boxes at the top, you can then move down to the 4 tabs listed below. So items and services, taxes and fees, payment types, credit card types, the split the room revenue, which I mentioned before, and the journal code, which is only required for our French customers. Starting with items and services, you'll see in red here the 5 items which are coming from your Cloudbeds account. So the first step is to map these 5 accounts. So for example, select the drop-down and breakfast. So you can map this to any account you like. And depending on the level of detail you want to see in your accounting, you may wish to map breakfast to breakfast or Coca-Cola to Coca-Cola, or you may just wish to map them to grouped items like food, beverage, other revenues, etc. Once you've mapped these, you can then click Save. Next, we move on to the taxes and fees. The Cloudbeds account we have connected has 4 taxes set up. Depending on your jurisdiction, you may have more or less. Here you can select the tax account. For purposes of the demo, we're simply going to map them to one tax account. But again, depending on the level of detail you wish to see in your accounting, you can map them as you wish. Taxes and fees are showing as green. The next tab will be payment types. For purposes of this demo, I'm going to map them all to accounts receivable. But to make reconciliation easier, we would recommend splitting all the accounts receivable, payment types, and credit card types to separate accounts to make that reconciliation process a little bit easier. Depending on your Cloudbeds setup, you may have a lot of these or you may have very few. The final one is done. And then lastly, we just have to map the credit cards. Cloudbeds does allow users to enter a credit card payment without specifying the card type. So we've added a function here to make sure that you can map a generic credit card, which could be credit card like so. As mentioned, we would recommend, if possible, mapping these to separate accounts like this to make sure it is easy to reconcile later on. We would also recommend selecting a vendor for each of the account receivable items, but for the purposes of this demo, we don't have any set up. Once that's all done, you can click Save. Double check that you have the green at the top of every tab. And that's it. Once you've successfully mapped your accounts, you can then go to the Preview and Post journal entries manually. I have a date here, which has some transactions in. I select the date and click Run. On this page, you have several options. You can run to preview the journal entry before it posts. You can post journals to Quickbooks using the green button. You can download it, or you can print. In most cases, you will want to post these automatically. But if you do want to do a correction, you can remove the journal entry from Quickbooks and repost using this function here. For the purposes of this, I will post this journal to Quickbooks. If we then go to Quickbooks, we will see that a journal entry has been posted. Which matches what was provided with the date that the revenue was generated and the CB preview that we set previously. In the memo, there's also some details about where the journal entry came from and some details, obviously, matching the journal entry previewed in our app. Obviously, depending on your mapping, this will show more or less detail. Once you've successfully mapped all your accounts and previewed your journal entry, you could then move on to the auto posting setup. To do this, go to Quickbooks and Quickbooks Auto Posting in yellow. Slide the top button to active, as well as the Send Journal Entry Posting Notification to active, and here you can enter your email address to receive a notification when a journal entry is posted. Next, you can choose the scheduled posting time. So this time is adjusted for your time zone based on the details you provided when you set up your account. But we recommend selecting tomorrow's date and 3 o'clock in the morning to ensure that all the room revenues have been posted by Cloudbeds, which usually happens around midnight. You can also enter an email address here for your errors, email notification, and you can select who will receive the daily profit and loss report, which is similar to the trial balance report of other systems. And you can select the time. The time of this should be after the posting. So we normally recommend 3, and then the profit and loss report to be posted at 3:30 or 4 a.m. Once you're happy with the settings, click Save. and then your journal entries will run automatically each day.